This is episode 78 with Ruben A and Raymond Burgos.
Welcome to Spot On Insurance. Join us each week as we speak to insurance professionals, attorneys, regulators, and compliance specialists on topics ranging from improving your agency to staying on the right side of the law. Subscribe and stay informed on the effects of new trends and disruptive emerging technologies on your businesses and your industry.
Hi, this is Ted Tavares.
And this is Arlene Tavares. Here's an email from Patrick J. West from the greater Chicago area.
I've been a huge fan of your show and love the passion and expertise you bring to each episode. I'll continue to be a loyal listener.
Patrick, thank you so much for not only being a member of our growing circle of insurance professionals, but also for sharing Spot On Insurance with your colleagues and friends.
Our first guest is Ruben A. Jr., currently the president of the International Insurance Consulting Group. IICG is a boutique consulting firm in San Juan providing support to international insurance companies licensed under the Puerto Rico's International Insurance Center. The firm helps international insurers take full advantage of the incentive programs offered by the government, including Act 20, Act 22, and Act 273. Ruben is also vice president of the Puerto Rico International Insurance Association, that's PRIIA, which was formed in 2015 to bring together the various international insurers registered under Puerto Rico's International Insurance Center. Their intention is to create a single body that can respond to and advise the related parties on insurance issues and to serve as a single voice in discussions with Puerto Rico's Office of the Commissioner of Insurance, who regulate the insurance industry. Now, our second guest is Raymond Burgos, a legal counsel at RPB Consulting LLC. Raymond is engaged in a variety of roles as a business lawyer, manager, and counselor for clients, internal and external, in Puerto Rico, U.S., and Latin America, including public and private governance issues, operational risk management, professional liability, litigation and commercial arbitration, and disputes in labor cases. As part of his roles, he has performed as a member of our company's risk committee, collaborated as lecturer, trainer, and consultant for companies and professional organizations, and is an official representative for international insurers in Puerto Rico. For nearly 14 years, Raymond worked at Aon Risk Solutions, first as the senior legal and compliance advisor for business technical operations, and later on in the professional and healthcare practice. Gentlemen, bienvenidos a Spot On Insurance.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you, Arlene.
You're welcome.
All right, nosotros, we like to start by hearing your stories, your success stories, your failure stories that actually brought you to success as well, because we all know it's a journey. So, Raymond, let's begin with you. Tell us your story of how you got here.
Well, I've been around for a couple of years. I've been practicing lawyer for 30 years in Puerto Rico. Since the beginning of my professional career, I was certainly involved accidentally in the insurance industry because probably my first clients were claimants against insurance companies. And at that particular time, we're talking about in the 90s, certainly insurance industry was very different from the last 10 years. I mean, dramatically. The insurance industry in Puerto Rico was very strong. We have certainly hundreds of players that come here in Puerto Rico, including a lot of reinsurers coming directly from London to do business here. And the local regulations also allow those reinsurers to have offices in Puerto Rico, and from here, Puerto Rico can do business not only in the Caribbean, but also in Latin America. So as a result of that, my early experiences, insurance company hired me for additional legal services. So that was my probably more close-up litigation within the insurance industry in Puerto Rico for my first 15 years in the profession. I've certainly great failures in many cases. And from those failures, as Ted mentioned, you learn a lot, and then you earn your success in a lot of great stories, including the development of some of the insurance products that a lot of people take for granted today. We work with insurance companies to develop those products and make them available for the clients, especially in some of the commercial industry, construction industry. We can mention that, for instance, which is the percentage that most of the insurance company uses today to develop the insurance coverage for the construction and contractor industry. Certainly, the conditions of the policies are also key products that have been developed for the past 20 years, and we have the opportunity to help and assist on those conditions and the policies.
Did you always want to be a lawyer?
I certainly, yes. As a matter of fact, not always. I started as a medicine student, and I don't know, certainly I developed, my colleagues tell me that I was quite meticulous or probably argumentative in a lot of the issues. So I developed some predisposition for the legal profession. And at the end of the day, I just went to study law and decided to practice the profession. And then at the end of the story, that's it. And certainly I did the right decision. I enjoyed a lot my work. My work has given me the opportunity to help in many, many, many things that I was never imagined. For instance, I had the opportunity during law school to help and assist with the drafting of what is today the mental health code, which is Law 408. And right now, court appoints me as legal counsel for a lot of mental patients. So there you have. How far can you go if you really put some time and some energy in your profession?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And certainly representing mental patients in court is it's challenging. Every case is different. And I can tell you, I learn a lot from my clients, a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine that it's challenging.
Yes. And after that, when I decided to go with Aon as the in-house counsel for them, that was in the early 2000s, and Aon was just recently arrived to Puerto Rico. They bought an office here, an insurance broker issue, and they just started their business in here. And at the beginning, it was very rough, as any local broker competitor. And after that, they decided to grow and expand. And from one subsidiary, which is AR Risk Solutions, they grow to 4 different companies, which is Aon Hewitt, which is the biggest consulting firm in the world. Also, Aon Insurance Managers, which is the largest captive insurance company manager in the world. Also, they open an office in Puerto Rico. And from then on, my role certainly was involved as an in-house counsel for all those subsidiaries. That certainly demanded a lot of time, but also opened to me a lot of opportunities. And as a matter of fact, in the Aon Insurance Manager role as a staff counsel, that was when I knew Ruben and the whole Puerto Rico Offshore Insurance Center development. That was probably in the mid-2000s until today, which is now a very important and critical, as we probably going to talk later about that.
Yes.
Important step in the development of the Puerto Rico insurance industry, which is, I believe, the course of the future. To make sure that Puerto Rico is not only a local insurance market, but a platform for a lot of risk management and insurance market from a global capability.
Now, let me not leave Ruben out. Arlene and I know you a bit more than Raymond, of course. We've known your father, who works at the insurance department here in Puerto Rico for many years, and we've had several meetings with you. Tell us about your insurance career.
Sure. Well, thanks again, Ten and Arlene. So I guess my story in the insurance industry is a bit different. I would say I'm more in the alternative side of the insurance. I started in 2012 with a strong interest of being a part of the insurance industry, but I never wanted to be an insurance agent or an insurance broker. I've always been more interested on the different types of insurance products that are offered to companies and individuals in specific jurisdictions. And more specifically, as Raymond was mentioning, I have been more focused on the promotion of Puerto Rico as an international insurance jurisdiction and as a financial center for international business across the world. So I mentioned I started in 2012, and I've been going to different conferences in the United States, in Latin America, as part of the Puerto Rico International Insurer Association, but also as part of the different companies that I have represented, promoting Puerto Rico, educating people on both the benefits, the challenges, and the opportunities that Puerto Rico's international insurance offered. And specifically, I have dedicated most of my time to the development of captive insurance companies, which are one of the products that are available in Puerto Rico through the structures that the International Insurance Center allows. And I continue to do that at the moment. I am developing captive insurance opportunities for clients outside of Puerto Rico, but also clients in Puerto Rico. And I know we will get into this throughout the call, but it's interesting that as a consequence of everything that has happened in Puerto Rico, a captive insurance model begins to be a very interesting one, and that can bring a lot of value to companies, that are suffering from the consequences of Maria. So that's basically where I am, and the part of the insurance industry where I stand.
And speaking of Maria, both of you, we've wanted to have you on as guests for some time. But this episode is special to us here because this episode of Spot On Insurance will actually come out 2 days prior to the anniversary of Maria. We all go by just calling her Maria, right? This was a tremendous hurricane that we experienced, the two of you experienced, and many, many of our Spot On Insurance listeners, as we actually have quite a number of listeners right here in Puerto Rico. This episode is going to focus on the state of the Puerto Rico insurance market today and the initiatives being developed for the future. However, first, I would like each of you to take some time to give us your firsthand experience of Maria. And we're going to start with you, Raymond.
Okay. Well, Maria is, in my opinion, the turning point on Puerto Rico, not only from the insurance industry, before and after. It will be marked as before and after, that's for sure. But not only in the insurance, but on the financial situation of the country, of the island, infrastructure, economic development, and a lot of things that we're still discovering after Maria. And for many, many years, I know that we're going to become, there's kind of a lot of information coming out of the result of this catastrophe here.
Yeah, were you here to experience Maria?
Yes, I was here, and I suffered severe damages at my home. I was probably very lucky. I was one of that didn't lost the roof, but certainly my house suffered severe damages. I lost part of the infrastructure in my house, and in fact, the insurance company paid my claim. And we have been struggling here. I was able to be here, have no electric power, no water. We worked a couple of the first probably 2 months and a half.
Right.
We live with a electric emergency generator, going to get diesel every week. So I was part of the experience of doing things, nothing related to my profession, just making sure that I was able to have a home. My family was safe. There was a roof, and we have to live as the rest of the country, trying to survive, making sure that if we're going to stay, we're going to stay. We're not going to leave Puerto Rico. And that was the first decision. I know that, in fact, some of my family we had to take the decision that they have to move out because a lot of old people with severe health conditions, that it would be more safe for them to move out because we didn't have certainly any guarantee that the electric power will return. And as a matter of fact, right now in Puerto Rico, we have to live with the consequences of a lot of people who died because there was no electric power to cover their needs. So I was there, and I was able to have electric power at my house and water to help other people in the island that they still need support because the electric power is not full. So Maria, in my case, Maria was there, and I was here. I was a witness myself.
Yes.
And I saw I saw the winds, and I saw the water, and I saw the destruction, the devastation of the whole island. And I was very conscious that the insurance companies were in shock. I know that they were in shock because you don't have nothing.
Yes.
And I mean nothing.
Yes.
You don't have communication. You don't have electric power. And it doesn't matter if you send people to the street or tell the clients or the insurers that send me the claims by email. We don't have nothing. It's just waiting for things to happen, and they were in shock,
right.
certainly. And some of the companies.
When did you receive your electricity back? By the way?
If I recall, it was probably in November.
Right.
Oh.
In my case, in my house, in November, probably mid-November.
Right. And Ruben, let's get your perspective on Maria. Were you here? And so we'd like to get your perspective of what it was like for you.
Yes. So, it's interesting hearing to Raymond's description of his experience. I think for a lot of us that were here in Puerto Rico, it certainly was a very traumatic experience. For myself, being in Puerto Rico for Georges, which was, I would say, hurricane that was closest to Maria in terms of damages, but that was over 20 years ago. And having been through Maria, I would say that I was not expecting the amount of damage. I think I was one of those Puerto Ricans that thought that it wasn't going to hit or that the consequences weren't as serious as they actually were. And I remember spending the next 3 weeks after the hurricane really struggling in a sense, because we're just so used to a certain life, certain routine every day. And so not having gas, having to do hours of waiting in a line for hours just to get, $10 of gas or getting cash out of the ATM was certainly another huge problem. So I think it exposed me personally to something very different that I had never been exposed before, but it also taught me many things in terms of the vulnerabilities of the communication, teach me a lot of things about the domestic insurance industry and how it reacts to what happened and is still reacting to what happened. And so I think, Maria will definitely bring a lot of change and will transform many areas of the Puerto Rico economy, some for the good and some for the bad. But I think it will definitely be a transformation point. And as far as the insurance industry as well, I think it's going to be a huge transformation point, just because of the magnitude and the way it was dealt, as a whole.
Spot On is sponsored by Insurance Licensing Services of America. Need help with corporate name changes, annual returns, or surplus lines tax filings? Feeling overwhelmed? If you're looking for experts in regulatory compliance, you've come to the right place. ILSA provides the industry with over 50 services. To learn more about the company and how they can help, visit ilsainc.com.
Well, I can tell you that by the second day, I was ready to go iguana hunting. I was like, I don't know how we're going to eat.
Yeah.
So
right.
You guys know that Ted and I moved here. We moved to Puerto Rico nearly 2 years ago. It was in October of 2016. So we were Puerto Rico residents just in time to greet Maria. And we actually, in fact, were in the neighboring island, which is where we're originally from, Dominican Republic. We were there and we were flying in from Punta Cana on the 19th. And you guys know it's just a 29-minute flight from Punta Cana to San Juan.
Yep.
And we took that flight like around noonish on the 19th. And that flight was the quietest flight I've ever experienced. And that's not typical, right? When you get a bunch of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans on a plane, but it was super quiet, nobody talking, everybody just thinking about what they were about to face. And we had all just been through Hurricane Irma, which was like nothing for us, right? A couple of trees down and whatnot. And all I could do is just talk to my friends that are from here, from Puerto Rico. And all of them were like, don't worry. All of the hurricanes always go north of us. Don't worry about it. We're at this latitude and this longitude, and they know the whole thing. And they're talking to you about the shape of the island and how everything just splits. Nothing's going to touch us. And so we land and try to go to the supermarkets, it's already 1:00 in the afternoon. Everything is shut down. People had told us, oh, by the way, you might want to pick up some cash. We're thinking, you might need $500. And of course, we get home and we live southeast of San Juan, 45 minutes southeast. And later that night, after we just boarded up one glass door. When we sat down and settled in, I see somewhere on a WhatsApp chat with my friends that CNN is actually broadcasting from our subdivision. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? What's going on? And lo and behold, I find out that Hurricane Maria is going to make its entry into the island through our town, Humacao. And by that point, at 8:00 at night, I'm freaking out. I'm drinking a little bit more wine.
I wasn't going to say anything. I was going to keep that quiet. She was calming her nerves.
That's a good one.
And and all the messages just kept coming in. And the more I watched CNN, the more I freaked out. And then I just had to turn off the news, right? And then I said, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. We're here. This is it, And Ted, of course, was like, we're going to be fine. This is a bunker. These places, all these homes are concrete bunkers. Look how thick the concrete is. And I'm like, you've never experienced a Category 5. You've never, ever in your life experienced it. So we don't know what's going to happen. For us in Humacao, here where we are, the hurricane hit us in the middle of the night at 4:30 in the morning. So it's pitch black. It was scary.
For her, I was trying to get some sleep, but I couldn't sleep because she kept screaming.
It was really terrifying. As thick as these walls were, the house was shaking, and you hear all sorts of noise, all the clay tile roofs banging and sounds like metal. And it was just, horrific noise. But as bad as that wasn't the worst. Of course, the worst was the aftermath, what we experienced afterwards, not having electricity, not having water, not being able to communicate. It took us 3 days to be able to tell our family and friends and our team in Texas that we were alive. It took 3 days for that. Just what you go through, like you said, Raymond, at that point, you're not thinking about work, and we are all in the insurance industry, right? But you realize how ill-prepared you are for something like this.
How ill-prepared everybody is.
Yeah, how everybody, And one of the things that I'm very, very grateful for is that Ted, every day following the hurricane, our first thing was survival, right? Like, okay, we don't know how long the supermarkets are going to be closed, but where we are, there's lots of coconut trees around us. And so his thing was, we collect as many coconuts as we can.
Hey, I had 300 coconuts on the deck and in the pool. I have pictures of this. This is no lie. And the idea is you have water in it and you've got a way to stay hydrated and survive just eating coconuts and drinking coconut water. So I said, if we can't get to water and can't get to a lot of other things, I want to make sure I have this stash on the side for us.
And every day we had just one goal for the day, like get to a place that we can make a phone call, which that took 3 days to be able to do. How do we get diesel? How do we get cash? Because you guys know it was so difficult to get cash. And you couldn't pay for anything with a check, with a card, any repairs that you needed. Any food that you needed, like on a street stand where people were actually, grilling stuff out on the street. And that's the only food that you're going to get. Everything was cash. And so every day there was a certain goal that we had to fulfill. Right. And I remember also just being grateful for these little things, like our community gave us a flyer and they emphasized things about survival. Like if you have a pool, that is your water. That's the water that you have to use. So you have to clean out that pool. If there's any debris, which everybody had all sorts of debris, we had tons of coconuts in there, clean it, because if you have live stuff in there, that water is decaying a lot faster. And then I remember 4 or 5 days later that our community actually had a place for us to drop off our garbage. And I remember just being so grateful for that because the garbage was getting really, really bad. I mean, there were maggots and really bad stuff. And I remember just thinking, oh my gosh, we have a place to put the garbage. It's those little things.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was incredible. For us, of course, we had electricity that came back to our community like December 10th. So the hurricane hit September 20th, and it came back December 10th for us. And we know that there were lots of people that their electricity is just coming back.
As a matter of fact, we still have people that doesn't have electric power.
Right.
Yes.
And for us, we had a generator, but Maria took the generator for at least a week. And so we had an electric car, but the car doesn't run without electricity. So we had to focus on getting the generator fixed. And then after about a week and a half, we were able to get that going. And then we were able to charge the Tesla cars that we had.
You have to go to the basic. Just survive. You make sure I survive from today to tomorrow. That's it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. The situation with us is once we got that part of the electricity going, we were able to do kind of what you were doing. That is help people in the neighborhood get to the airport, shuttle people where they needed to go.
Oh, no. The best from the people came out. That's for sure. That's for sure.
I think so. We made a tremendous amount of friends. The community came together. I went to the nearby community of Yabucoa, and people were outside talking, getting to know neighbors.
Become known neighbors that you never knew.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we definitely made a lot of friends after the hurricane, and we realized that we were back to just handwriting notes. We would come home and we would have handwritten notes in our mail. And also because we were one of the few whose satellite TV did not get blown off. And once we had electricity with our generator, early in the morning, people would come outside of our window and would say, "Hey, Ted, I'm going to be over at your house to watch the baseball game."
Oh, yeah.
And it was a gathering place.
I think we all agree that Puerto Rico's economic outlook is extremely challenging. In the insurance industry pre-Maria, the healthcare industry was struggling. Working physicians number 9,000, down 36% from a decade ago. Mm-hmm. This translates into many people waiting for 1 year to see a specialist. These doctors left the island for better opportunities elsewhere. Already, there were tens of thousands of mostly younger, healthier Puerto Ricans leaving to the mainland, seeking better opportunities. This means the remaining population was getting older. Mm-hmm. And remember, this was pre-Maria.
Right.
So where do we stand now, Guy? Raymond, what's your take on this, Ray?
That's part of the challenge that Maria accelerated, because most of those people that decided to go for an opportunity, not necessarily for the hurricane, but the hurricane certainly helped a lot of people to decide to go to the U.S. But the point is that the people who decided to go, certainly for many different reasons. My point of view here is, okay, who are the ones who decided to stay? And I know that a lot of people, professionals from all industries, with a little more patience seeing that from the financial standpoint, hurricanes that create devastation for the local residents are opportunities to other industries. And as you can see, in fact, my house, this is a very awkward thing to me, but it was real and I decided to do it. I had the chance to rent my house to a company that came with the U.S. Corps of Engineers to work here for the hurricane, to do repair and the cleaning from the debris and cleaning on the helping with the PREPA, with the Puerto Rico Electric Power Company. And they were looking for a place to stay for 3 months. A realtor came to me and said, they like your house because the house is a regular house, but it's have a lot of space around, and they need some space to park their trucks, their pickups, and their materials. And for 3 months, I said, well, 3 months, that's not going to do it. I mean, I'm not going to be renting my house for 3 months. Where are I going to live? I can rent my house. Is it for a year or more? And he said, okay, So they talk about that. They came back, say, okay, they'll have it for 1 year. They say, okay. So I move out. I rent my house, which is an unforeseen side that really helped me financially to set up a platform so I can then move and live in an apartment, much cost efficient. And certainly I'm doing a lot of money in that and help me with my family. And that's an experience that I would never imagine do it without the situation of crisis. And I know that a lot of people are handling the same way, but you have to open your eyes, open your ears, and watch for the opportunities, because you're going to see them all. In the insurance industry, we're going to see that. It's too early. It's too early. We haven't had a year from the hurricane. It's too early yet. But I know that a lot of insurance companies, local insurance market is going to change. Unfortunately, some insurance company will not survive. That's for sure. And now, knowing that Puerto Rico has a hurricane season every year, you have to think about that twice. I mean, we have so many condominiums, waterfront property that doesn't have insurance. Why? Because the local market is not able to provide it. So we will have to open the doors to the rest of the world, to the global insurance industry, to come in with solutions. That's why I believe that that this segment, which Ruben is part of it, it's one of the answers. It's one of the solutions. Because everybody knows that we have a lot of investors coming here, and those investors are not going to insure their properties or their investment with the local market. They're going to do it with the insurance programs or however mechanisms they have, including captives from outside Puerto Rico. So those players will have to come here and start doing business here, as we all know that they already are doing business here in hotels. And that's a major change in not only in our industry, but our mental set mind that this is the way we do business here. Not anymore. We got to think out of the box. And that means that new regulations will have to be changed. All regulations will have to be amended. And that's a great amount of opportunity for a lot of people.
The other thing, though, is a lot of people are wrestling with how to hurricane-proof their homes a lot better than they were. I think because Puerto Rico didn't deal with a lot of hurricanes, a lot of us didn't know what to do. But now, like in our own home here in Humacao, by Mas Hermanos, we've done a lot of extensive work to make sure that if another one is a Category 5, we're able to withstand it without much problems. Ours didn't have that much of an issue, but I think now people are going to be looking more to making sure that their house is more hurricane-proof than it was in the past. And I think hurricanes, having lived in Texas, I think hurricanes, to me, you can prepare better for them than you can for a tornado. You can't if you're on a low level and you can get flooding, but if you're a little higher up where you can easily prevent flooding, there's a lot of things that you can do. And the thing that I like so many of the homes in Puerto Rico is that it's concrete along all four walls, and then the roofs themselves are concrete. So if you have that, you're able to withstand a hurricane. That's why when we first came onto the island and we were coming in from Maria, I was not panic-stricken about it. I said to Arlene, look, we already live in what is a storm shelter.
Yeah, sure. No, you keep your roof. You're going to have a roof on top of your head. But the rest of the infrastructure, that's the problem. Yes. That's the problem, because we live in properties that need infrastructure, those concrete houses need air conditioning, electric power, water supply. And if we don't have it, there's going to be a very difficult lifestyle. If you can imagine, you have a house, yes, you have a roof, but you don't have electric power. So you need an electric generator. Electric generator needs fuel. You need, it's very hard to live that way. And certainly because Georgia's was in 1998, we have generations of people that never lived this before. And all of a sudden you have a great house and you're comfortable, you're safe. I mean, you're not going to die, but you don't have anything else. You have to go out and get it. And that's the fun part about this.
But, decentralization is important at this point when you're looking at solar and you're looking at some of these other...
I agree with you. Yeah.
To get this stuff to the house. I think the people in Puerto Rico, and it has to be allowed We got to get the prices down on these things because that's a boom right there. You still have your electricity. You will still have
correct. Those are the regulations that have to change. They have to change. They have to allow people to be able to have access to solar power, wind power, and other options in order to survive. That's it. That's the word, in order to survive. Because at the end of the day, we're still going to be an island forever. And that's one of the key issues that we have here. No matter how much prepared you are, it doesn't matter how much energy you have or what the system you have, we're on an island. And supply will have to come overseas. So sooner or later, you're going to run out of supply. And you need somebody to get it from here. And it's going to come from other countries, either by air or by sea.
Ruben, you're one of the young ones that had and continues to have options. Tell us why you stayed on the island, and let's bring you into this conversation.
Sure. Dan, it's an interesting question that you asked earlier. Why so many young people and why so many doctors are leaving Puerto Rico? The way I see it is, it's an economy in transition. It's an economy that is transforming drastically from a manufacturing economy to a service economy. And that change creates an environment where it's not as comfortable for a lot of people that prefer to have a job with a big company and work 20 years and move to your next role. I think that while those opportunities might be limited, and it might be very difficult to find those types of jobs in Puerto Rico, there is an incredible opportunity for entrepreneurial projects. And one of the ways in which Puerto Rico, I think, has become very competitive in that area of allowing Puerto Ricans to be entrepreneurial is through the Act 20 movement. And the same could be applied to the International Insurance Center, but specifically in the Act 20, and you guys are very familiar with this, it allows Puerto Ricans to export their services to markets all over the world. And there are a number of platforms that we can use to do so. And I think that creates an opportunity for new projects. And I consider myself an entrepreneur, specifically in the insurance industry. And then after Maria, I sensed it quite early that there was going to be a huge opportunity for the international insurance sector, which traditionally has been used to assure risks from outside of Puerto Rico, but through an international insurance company that is domiciled in Puerto Rico. But however, because of Maria, products that used to be available only for international clients can now be applied to Puerto Rico corporations that need these types of tools. And I'm speaking specifically about the captive insurance structures through the use of an international insurer in Puerto Rico. And for those listeners that may not be as familiar with the captive insurance term, this is a private insurance company that is created to help companies insure the risks where there is not commercial coverage available or where the commercial coverage is extremely expensive. Therefore, the client has an incentive to retain that risk and to finance that risk through the use of a captive insurance company. So going back to your question, Ted, why I have not left Puerto Rico is because I see a tremendous opportunity to commence new entrepreneurial projects in the island. And I think that the conditions after Maria help entrepreneurs like myself to identify new ways of doing things, and with the existing laws and the existing tools that we have to build something that works for the future and can bring new opportunities. So, that's what I am looking for.
That's very good. Ruben, I thank you for you being one of the talents that has stayed in Puerto Rico, because what you're doing is something that's very well needed in our industry. And also, thank you for sharing that definition of captives for our audience that may not be familiar with it. I also wanted to touch upon another aspect in insurance, which is reinsurance, and the crucial role that it plays in the insurance market. And for those of you that might not be too familiar, we have just varying insurance professionals that listen to this podcast. You might be an adjuster, you might be a surplus lines tax filer, a licensing coordinator, but reinsurance plays a crucial role because reinsurance is insurance for insurance companies. So it's how they hedge their risk and how they share those risks. And it's so important in a market. Never mind when you go through something like what we've experienced here in Puerto Rico, you understand where if you did have a very closed community, you understand how important it is to embrace the help and have lots of stable, financially sound players in the market. Wouldn't you agree, Raymond? I know you and I have had lots of conversations on this.
Yeah. That's a fact.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to touch upon is oftentimes I had heard that many insurance agencies here in Puerto Rico had perhaps this misconception that they had limitations to be able to write business in the U.S. mainland. And that's not the case. There's reciprocity. Just the same way that an insurance agent, an insurance agency from the U.S. can do business here in Puerto Rico as a non-resident, the same holds true for a Puerto Rico resident. So a Puerto Rico resident is able to be licensed in any U.S. jurisdiction. And that's something that is very important for the community here to know and understand, that it's very easy to get licensed in the U.S. One thing that I also want to talk about, Ruben, and as you know, Ted and I are now permanent residents of Puerto Rico as of 2 years ago. How we came about coming here is we used to vacation here for about 10 years, and we've stayed in different places throughout the island. And in 2016, we were house hunting just for a vacation property. And the more and more that we heard of the Tax Acts 20 and 22, we decided that not only could we qualify for it, but we would benefit from it. And we decided to make Puerto Rico our primary residence. In that time, we went ahead and purchased a house. We hired a team. We have a team of a handful that's full-time employees, and we provide excellent benefits the same way that we provide great benefits to our team in Texas. And a lot of our team members here have already had opportunities to travel for business. And I'm just saying all of this just because I know that from my perspective, the intention of the Tax Act, which is to stimulate and grow the economy here in Puerto Rico, it's working. When you have industries that come here, you're creating jobs, you're spending money, and who's not going to want that? In our case, for mine and Ted's case, and for you guys as well, but we are closest to the insurance industry. And that's why we're constantly sharing information about the Tax Act 20 and 22 with people that have expressed an interest in it. We already know several folks that have moved their insurance companies here, their insurance agencies here, and we're talking to a lot that are planning to do so. Ruben, I'd like you to take a moment and just share with us some of the incentives that you specifically know have been created for the insurance industry.
Sure, absolutely. Well, specific to the insurance industry, the incentive is called the International Insurance Center, and that's the Act 399. It allows for international insurance company to set up shops in Puerto Rico to service the international market. They basically take advantage of the capitalization structure here and the tax advantage, but they're assuming risks outside of Puerto Rico. There's different types of insurance companies that can be formed, from pure captives, single parent, property and casualty, to complex reinsurance, catastrophic operations, life reinsurance companies, etc. I think in that sense, where Puerto Rico's insurance offering through this incentive is very complete and competes very favorably with other jurisdictions, both offshore and onshore. And I guess to link that to the Act 20 movement, Arlene and Ted, which you guys are very familiar, the 399 also plays an important role because they actually work together. An Act 20 company can be the insurance manager of an international insurance company in Puerto Rico. In fact, I had the privilege, really the honor, to be the first employee of the largest insurance manager in Puerto Rico for international insurer that has its own Act 20 company. It's called Advantage Insurance. They started in Puerto Rico in early 2010. They opened an Act 20 service company in 2013, and since then it's grown to nearly 30 employees so far. I had the opportunity to be a part of that since the early beginning. So I know that it works, as you mentioned, Arlene. I know that it provides a very important, economic development in terms of new lines of business and different types of insurance dealings and practices that are being brought into Puerto Rico through the uses of the International Insurance Center. So I guess specifically to insurance, those would be the two incentives that would apply.
Well, I'll tell you, the outlook is very bright from my perspective, and I know from Marlene's perspective. So Raymond, what do you see in the future?
Well, in the near future, we're still dealing with the struggle for the claims to be paid. And as a result of that struggle, which is going to take some years, I'm sure of that. That means litigation and a lot of arbitration cases. We certainly are looking forward to a more engaged housing industry, which means that banks have to get involved, because a bank requires a hazard insurance that the debtor of the mortgage has to pay. But that insurance has to work. That insurance has to work. We cannot allow a windstorm insurance company delaying payment of claims or delaying adjustment and everything else, because we're talking about the house of the people. And we're talking banks. Banks have to get engaged, get involved, telling the insurance industry, hey, you have to deal with this immediately because we need that.
Right.
We cannot allow people to pay a mortgage when they don't have a house. And when Puerto Rico faced the situation when you don't have any electric power, any communications, any access to any money, well, the banks didn't have any choice. You have to get an automatic moratory in everything: mortgage, credit cards, everything, auto loans, everything. Nobody has to pay anything until you recover from the hurricane. And not even the banks were ready for that. And they still struggling with that, because now you don't have an insurance company that will provide insurance to all the properties in the coast. And you still have mortgages on those buildings, on those properties. Now what are you going to do? And the people have to recover. So it's a very daunting situation, but I'm sure that the banks get engaged. New insurance industry players come in. I know that the situation will be resolved. It's going to take some real commitment. It's going to take some real out-of-the-box solutions, but I'm sure that it's going to be fulfilled. Because at the end of the day, the investors of the banking industry, they need insurance, and the owner of the house needs insurance. So we have to get together and making sure that we get those solutions.
Yeah, it's definitely lessons that have been taught to so many different facets of the financial services sector here. How about you, Ruben? What do you see in the future?
For Puerto Rico in general, I can only say that I see a bright future. I am an optimism, and I think Puerto Rico has the potential to do great. Pre-Maria, I've always been a promoter of the different incentive acts, because I believe that Puerto Rico is the ideal place to export services and to conduct international insurance. But I have to say that after Maria, I feel even more convinced that Puerto Rico is truly a fascinating place to do business and the ideal gateway for companies to expand. And I think we've all seen that with the attitude of Puerto Ricans that want to recover. Puerto Ricans are not people that are lazy. Puerto Ricans are very hardworking people that want to develop new things. I think it's undisputed that Puerto Rico is a very creative place. Puerto Ricans are extremely creative, and that gives me a lot of hope that we will be able to develop new types of business, new industries that will come out of this, that will ultimately decide the success of Puerto Rico and the outcome of all the restructuring that is taking place. So specifically from the international insurance side, all we are seeing is increase of interest, new licenses being issued by the Office of the Commissioner, new products, different types of products that we've seen in the past, and that gives us a lot of hope. The International Insurance Association is increasing in size. We're increasing in the activities that we are putting forward to promote Puerto Rico. So I think Puerto Rico's best years are still to come, and I'm very happy to be, a part of that movement that believes that we have to be entrepreneurial and we have to put Puerto Rico out there.
Yeah, in that same line, I would like to add that from the last recent communication or expressions from the insurance commissioner, the surplus line market will be open, will expand, because we all are aware locally that the local market will not be able to satisfy the demand for insurance. So I'm looking forward for that too.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, Raymond. That's very good, because we're going to be having a future episode specifically on that, on the surplus lines market, the strength of the surplus lines market, not only in the U.S., but in Puerto Rico, and talking to someone that does a lot of work in this market here in Puerto Rico. So we look forward to that episode.
So Raymond, another question. As a member of our circle of insurance professionals, what piece of advice can you give someone based here in Puerto Rico that's just entering the insurance industry?
The first thing I will recommend is to try to educate yourself as much as you can with the latest products, and making sure that the regulations are available for that, because some of the issues that the insurance industry in Puerto Rico has provided for many, many years is probably providing the same thing, and it's no longer working. I mean, the insurance products will have to change. The way the businesses perform have to change. The way insurance brokers and insurance agents go around the island producing business have to change. A lot of the claims struggling crisis is mostly lack of education from the insurance professionals that place or sold those products. They are not capable of providing the client with the information, the correct information of what happened, how to file a claim, what information do I need, what is coverage, what is not, what's the purpose of the windstorm insurance product, and so forth. So if you arrive into the insurance industry here in Puerto Rico, try to educate yourself as much as you can and make sure that the client knows what you're doing, why, who, what to pay, what's the compensation, what's the role of the insurance company, what's the role of the insurance agent. And I'm sure that the client will love you for that and will stay with you for a longer period of time.
All right. Thank you very much. Now, Ruben, what piece of advice can you give to someone particularly young that's just entering the insurance industry?
My best advice, and actually I do give this to quite a lot of my friends that are in the process of just figuring out where they will end up working. And specifically for those looking into the insurance industry, I would say look for the alternative sides of the industry. Or I would say you don't have to stay in the same lines of business that everyone used to follow. You don't have to be an insurance agent, and you don't have to be an insurance broker. So I think that a lot of people tend to think that the insurance industry is just that. It's just selling insurance to your neighbor, or to just going out there and trying to sell insurance policy to someone. And I believe that if we are able, like Raymond says, to educate people about the whole insurance industry, including the opportunities to export insurance related products and services to market out there, that will ultimately be a much stronger career, in my opinion, than just trying to focus on the domestic insurance industry. So I guess to repeat that in a different sense, in case I just didn't say it correctly, my best advice would be to look for new ways of doing business, to look for the international markets, and to use the tools available to export services and go beyond the domestic insurance industry, which we all anticipate will have its challenges. But it's not the end of the world because we do have the technology and the legislation to become international and to service clients all over the world.
Wow, that's fantastic advice. One of the things that I realize about what you're saying is that kind of transfers to the United States as well. That's something that even new professionals coming in who see insurance as just a place where they can sell the basic insurance and have not really delved into what the insurance industry is all about. There's something in there for everyone, and you can find a niche that is just completely different from what you think insurance is.
Absolutely. I agree with that, Ted.
How do some of these professionals, if they have questions on Puerto Rico, want to get in touch with you, how do they do that? Ruben, let's start with you.
Sure. I'd be more than happy. As the president of the International Insurance Consulting Group, we have our website, which is IICGPR.com. We explain what the International Insurance Center is, the different types of structures that you can create in Puerto Rico, and some of the unique benefits that Puerto Rico offers in comparison to other jurisdictions. Also, as part of the Puerto Rico International Insurer Association, you can learn more about what we do and how we help Puerto Rico become a better insurance jurisdiction. Our website is www.priia.org, and you can see our members and everyone that forms part of the association. Ted, as you said, it's an incredible association that hopefully will become much better in the future in terms of how we help Puerto Rico become a better jurisdiction.
And we're very happy to be probably one of your newest members. So we're very excited to work with the group and to develop things and to just continue to grow the association.
Heads up, guys. Next week, we will be interviewing Brian Fulchak. Brian is the best-selling author of the book, Do a Day, How to Live a Better Life Every Day. He is also the host of the Do a Day podcast. His day job is Executive Vice President and Head of Claims at Hiscox USA. Brian's work has been featured in several top publications, including Inc. magazine, the LA Times, Chicago Tribune, and more. He has spoken at multiple TEDx events and has been a featured guest on over 100 podcasts and radio shows. And of course, next week he's on ours. From obesity to running marathons, from career struggles to success as a C-suite level executive, he has been through many lessons he uses to develop his unique approach to inspiring others to succeed. That's all part of next week's conversation on episode 79 of Spot On Insurance.
Raymond, and how do people get in contact with you?
Well, that's very simple. Give me a call.
Keep it simple.
That's really
What's
simple.
that number, Ray?
After many years of experience, there's nothing like personal contact. Nothing. I mean, email, art, and social media, and all of those technological tools that we have are extremely helpful. But if you want to get in touch with people and help them really and get engaged, you have to have personal contact face-to-face or by phone. And from then on, you can work out everything else. And I've been having this.
What's your number, Raymond?
I really protect my phone number. And this is a very, now that Ted mentioned it, it's kind of a joke, but it's true. I have the same cellular phone number for the past 22 years. And a lot of people call me and say, well, if you don't call me, it's because you lost my number, because I haven't changed the number. It's area code 787-484-0021. And it has been there for many, many years. And hopefully you're going to stay there.
Oh, that's very good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you so much for your time today, Raymond and Ruben, for being our special guests on Spot On Insurance. You've given our listeners such tremendous information. We look forward to working with both of you in the future.
Well, I really want to thank you and thank Ruben. I know Ruben personally, and I have to take the opportunity to say this. I really recognize Ruben. He's a young man, young entrepreneur, professional, insurance and businessman that is at the right place at the right time. And he knows that. Absolutely. And hopefully he'll enjoy it. A great deal of success, not only personally, but for Puerto Rico, who needs young professionals that really committed to the future of this country.
Here, here.
Well, Raymond, that really means a lot. I really appreciate that, and I do take it very seriously as something that I do for Puerto Rico and for the development of the International Insurance Center, which I think can benefit all of us. But really, I appreciate you making that kind of.
I'm sure you're going to do it.
Thank you, Arlene.
Okay.
Thanks again, guys.
Thanks to Arlene and thanks to Ted. Thank you both of you, because this kind of exchange of ideas should happen more often, and hope you're able to reproduce this kind of exchange of ideas in other industries. We need to do that. I mean, in the banking industry, they need to open their doors and get engaged, because they're part of the problem, and probably they could be part of the solution.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks to you.
Visit spotoninsurance.com, where you'll discover an ever-growing library of podcasts, videos, articles, and online tools by professionals for professionals to enhance your insurance education. By the way, that's where you'll also find our podcast notes and bonus resources. Please don't forget to click the iTunes link to rate and review, and let others know what you think of Spot On Insurance. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next week.